that's how we roll, I guess, huh?
That's exactly how we roll. That was the perfect transition because I was like, how am I going to transition into this friggin' thing with V here? But you did
We
it for me. So I definitely appreciate that, V.
uh,
V, how was your week? Tell us
uh,
about your week. What the hell did you do with your time off?
well, yeah, time off. My life is a perpetual time off. I'm just like wearing my bathrobe every day for like the past like 8 years. Not much, it's still going with this diet, although I finally cheated. Today I was all like, oh man, I like really wanted a cheeseburger, and so I was like, oh, I'll just run over to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger. And I kept like starting to feel guilty because I've been doing really good about this diet or
You've
whatever.
been doing
And so
well, you mean?
yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I've been doing well. And so like I get into the drive-through and it's like ridiculous. It's like all the way out to like the street and I was just like, well, this is like divine intervention here. So I was like, fuck it. And I ended up going to Taco Bell and getting the Doritos Locos tacos, which, those are like and then okay, here's the worst thing, and this is like before I get into what I really want to talk about, is like I hate Taco Bell, but I love them because I love the Dorito tacos, like the nacho and the ranch ones. The ranch ones are the best. But like I went today and I was like, okay, I'll just get the tacos and then I'll get a bottled water. So I go, okay, let me get my three tacos and a bottled water. And they go, okay, we'll give you a water. And I was like, it's bottled though, right? And they're like, well, no, we don't have bottled water. And I was like, "What? You're gonna charge me like for the soda, but you're gonna give me like tap water, dude? Like, what is that?" So like, my logic was, I'm paying for the whole meal. Like, I might as well get a soda, which I've been trying to stay away from. So like, I haven't had a soda in a while, and so I'm like, oh man, like it's like I'm obligated to get a soda because I'm being charged for it. Like, fuck it, dude. I'll just get the soda, right? So that was like my cheat today, but I have to like really avoid soda because it's like so much sugar. But what I really wanted to talk
I
about
hear it's
was this.
bad for you.
Yeah, it's so much sugar, dude. Like it'll go straight to your thighs.
The
you know.
before we go into what you really want to talk about, I do want to say hi to everybody in the chat. And V, you can co-sign with me here. We got Mike in Manitoba, we got Buzz Busby, we got Matt Squatch,
I
we
know, I
got
saw that.
we got Jay
Matt Squad.
Coop, and oh, and then we got Dirk Stir.
Nice, dude.
And you know
Yeah.
what? Matt Squatch just said hi V, and I
I,
thought he was making an HIV joke for a second. I was like, I wanted in on it, but
yeah, good one. Good one. Yeah.
anyways, yeah, go ahead and
Everybody.
do your thing, V.
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to make sure everyone felt welcome because we do love our fan
Yeah, I do.
parenthesis S. So
It's pretty cool to see Matt Squatch out there. I love that guy. I hope we can have him back again. I know we haven't done any cryptid stuff lately, but
oh, and
it's sure
Justin's there. Justin's there.
it
Hi, Justin.
sure is fun to have him on and stuff. So anyway, so I figure it's interesting, without giving anything away about what we're talking about today. I think my topic here for our opener kind of goes a little bit with it. This week was the Oscars, and I know probably most of our audience or fan probably doesn't watch it, because it's pretty gay and it's like a big circle jerk where all the actors and actresses are just jacking each other off and going, "You're the best. No, you're the best." And like award shows are to me are kind of that's just how it is. It's like really, what is it? Like it's just you're giving them this golden idol, and they're like, yeah, I had an abortion, and thankfully I got rid of my baby, so I have this shiny whatever, right? But there are some movies out there that were really good this year, and like. Man, I was like dying to know, especially like 1917, which you had recommended to me, and I finally went and saw it, and it was just amazing. And after I saw it, I'm a big film guy, so when I see a movie, I get all like, I analyze it and, do the whole mise en scène, blah, 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 blah. And so I kind of just wanted to go through the winners of the Academy Awards because I'm doubtful that any of our fans actually watched it or even have any idea who won. And
Yeah,
so I kind
go
of
nuts with the. Tell us what happened with the awards because I personally didn't watch it. I went based off of what you were telling me, and then I mean, kind of like I caught some of the stuff. Like I watched Brad Pitt's fucking gay, or excuse me, stupid, or excuse me, retarded. I listened to his stupid speech, and all he did was sit there and trash talk the impeachment thing with talking about how like. Oh, they're only giving me 45 seconds, which is 45 seconds longer than they gave so and so or whatever, and it's all that bullshit about like
what
oh, there were no witnesses in the Senate trial, or there were no witnesses in this impeachment trial. Well, you had 18 of them in the House. If you would have done it right, you could have had infinity. You could have just called everybody. You
What
could
a
call everyone in the nation to come testify, but you didn't. But yeah, I did. I saw some of the things, and I mean that rubbed me the wrong way with Brad Pitt. But I think he's a talented actor. But the thing about actors when it comes to like their politics and their opinions is like, to me, an actor is merely like one of those little monkeys that dances next to the guy with
yeah,
the little accordion or the little Jack in the Box thing
a
where he plays
symbol.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
like you throw the money and you're like, dance monkey. Like that's all entertainers are to me.
Yeah,
So
you don't want to hear their politics. That doesn't mean anything to me.
even Anthony Hopkins was like, you know why you should never listen to an actor when they talk about politics? Because actors are stupid. And like he's like, I don't know anything about politics. I would never interject myself into that conversation. But every single one of them is bought and paid for by, you know, fucking climate change hoaxers and alarmists and all that. And like, they're all part of that Greta
Yeah, they're
Thunberg circle
just
jerk. So
blowing each other. That's what it is. A big circle jerk. They're just all blowing each other. So, anyways, after your rant
yeah, well,
about
I had to get in
about
there
how
and bitch.
horrible and don't get me wrong, I totally agree with you that the industry is wroth with the disgust of like these circle jerks. But I wanted to just like go through real quick and like tell all the winners because there were a few that I was like, man, that's great, and this one and like it was kind of a surprise for a couple. So we'll get started here. The best short documentary is Who Gives a Shit because nobody watches documentaries. Who gives a shit about a short document? Best sound editing went to Ford versus Ferrari, which I watched today, and it's great, man. Definitely watch it. I highly recommend it. It's got the Muslim Bale and Matt Damon. So if you like those two guys, definitely watch that. Best makeup and hairstyle, that's gay. Nobody gives a shit about that. Best film editing was also Ford and Ferrari, so that's a good one to watch again. Live action short, no one gives a shit. Best animated short, no one gives a shit. Best production design was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a great movie, man. I really enjoyed that one. Highly recommend watching that. The 1917 swept the entire technical awards. It was like sound editing or sound mixing, best visual effects, and then of course they got best cinematography. Which, if you've seen 1917, you understand why that movie like deserved a few academies. Like I was kind of like hoping like that would get the best picture. Which I know I just gave away that didn't get Best Picture, but like that movie was amazing. It blew my mind, like the way they shot it all in one shot, and then like the ending. Like I don't want to give anything away, but I highly recommend singing it. And then Best Original Song went to that Gaylord Elton John, if you're into that or whatever. Best Adapted Screenplay was my boy Taika Waititi. I don't know if you guys know about Taika Waititi, but he's my favorite director right now. He did Thor Ragnarok. He's directed a lot of the old Flight of the Conchords episodes, which is a great show. If you haven't watched it, you definitely should. But he got it for Jojo Rabbit, which I have yet to watch. It's on my watch list, it looks really good. Another best documentary feature, which nobody gives a shit about. Okay, here's where it comes to the shocker. Best original screenplay went to that Korean dude for Parasite, which I haven't seen either. I know it's a foreign film or whatever, but that was kind of a big deal because he's a foreigner or whatever. And so they got best foreign language film too. Parasite got for that one. Best animated feature was Toy Story 4. Now, let's all be honest. All the Toy Story movies are great.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying
I mean,
that.
yeah, there's no denying Toy Story movies are great. I didn't see the fourth one, but I'm sure it's pretty good because I guess it's the last one in the series. Best original music score went to the Joker film with Joaquin Firebird. And then best director was the Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, which like blew my mind because I was like kind of expecting some of these other guys to win, so I kind of got a little upset because I haven't seen that movie, and all the other ones best director was like Tarantino and Scorsese, and then that dude Sam Mendes for 1917, and I was like, man, any one of those dudes deserve it. Even Todd Phillips for Joker was like, that was a pretty good movie. Best supporting actress was Laura Dern for Marriage Story, another movie I haven't seen because it's probably gay as hell. But I don't know if you know who Laura Dern is, but she was in Jurassic Park back in the day. Remember she was in Jurassic Park?
Oh, is she the blonde-haired chick that was
Yeah.
banging Sam Neill?
Yeah. She's also the daughter of Bruce Dern, who was in The Burbs. Remember, he was Rumsfeld, the neighbor that like would go out and salute his flag, and he like slipped on the dog shit. Best actress went to Renee
Lemon face Renee. Yeah.
Rel. You know who she is, and it was for some movie called Judy, which I didn't watch because it's probably a bitch flick. Best supporting actor, as you know, went to Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was a great movie. Again, I highly recommend watching that. There's some really great scenes in there. The ending, it was great, man. It's one of those scenes that you want to kind of like watch over and over because it's just like the best. It's classic Tarantino climax. You know what I mean?
You know what? So all over some 13-year-old's foot. I appreciate that setup, V. No, so what pisses me off about the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is that movie was framed as like Tarantino's doing a Manson movie, like a Charlie Manson movie. And I was like, oh, like a whole movie about Charles Manson? This is going to be awesome. Like his take on the family, and it's going to be crazy. And, and then come to find out, like, it's not even really hardly about him.
Yeah, Manson, the character of the person of Manson, wasn't even in the film. So, like, I mean, there's the Manson families in it. It's really kind of bizarre. Actually, interestingly, Bruce Dern is in that movie, the guy we just talked about, Rumsfeld from The Burbs. So best actor went to our boy Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, which hands down he deserved that. I was kind of hoping for Leo for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because he was amazing in that. Like if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you'd understand. Like there was like, man, some scenes that you're just like, this dude is an amazing actor. There's like a scene where he's an actor acting in a movie, but he's literally acting that he's acting, and it's like it's mind blowing. And then Best Picture went to Parasite, which was that Korean film, which I have yet to watch. So I don't know. It was the winner. So and it kind of got a lot of awards, which is kind of surprising. So I feel like I'm obligated to watch it. But like foreign films, like if there's like not kung fu, then it's really hard for me to pay attention to the subtitles below. And then there's anime.
Plus,
fan
you're
service.
not like super into horror movies, are you? Because that's a horror movie.
My understanding is that it's like a dark comedy. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was horror too, just because of the title. I assumed Parasite. It was about like a bug that goes up somebody's butt or something. But it turns out it's like this.
We covered that a couple weeks ago with the John Podesta one.
That's right. The Tweedledee and Tweedledee.
The Diddly Dees. Yeah.
No, it's about some like poor family that pretends that they're like a rich family, and then they like try to get involved with this other rich family so they can like rob them, I think. I don't know. I like scanned it. I didn't like peruse it, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, it's on my watch list. I'll watch it at some point, but I still want to watch the other ones first, like Jojo Rabbit. So that's my spiel for the day, since we're talking about what we're talking about.
I'm so out of touch with all of these things. All I see when I look at that stage is like pedophiles, I see communists, and I see Jays. That's my problem when I try to enjoy product these days. I can't get excited for next product because this product is disgusting to me.
Yeah.
What did you say? You said you saw communists, pedophiles, and what?
Jays!
Yeah. Yeah, that whole industry is pretty much run by the Jews. If you ask me, it's kind of like hard to get into the business because they just have this massive monopoly on it.
That's absolutely true. They've got the old stranglehold on there.
This is going to be a pain in the butt having to do because I have to
mark it every time.
Yeah, I have to change the count every time. But what we're doing,
since tally it up. And then add it every now and then so we can check back and see what it is. You know what I mean?
All right, maybe I can do that. So I guess we ruined the surprise. There was going to be like a whole thing, but yeah, now everybody knows what we're covering today. I did want to touch on something too, real quick, before we transition.
Touch on both.
Say again.
Like Epstein.
Yeah, Epstein didn't transition. He just, he just moved. He just moved.
Well, he was a Jew too. I mean, Epstein.
Goddamn, he had I don't want to necessarily get into it, right? But I'm pretty sure he was sacrificing little white girls on his island.
Making out
That's
with
not
their
doing the
feet.
thing. It's not. See, now I got to pull up the damn. I got to do this manually too. No, I did. I wanted to talk about something. There's this new thing that I do, and I highly recommend anybody, because you hear this all the time now. I'm going to do a quick little political rant. Every once in a while, you hear somebody as they're talking about, oh, Donald Trump. They'll equate him to 1984, right? The book, the George Orwell book, and I know we kind of talked a little bit about it the other day. But I highly recommend anybody who read it in high school or middle school or whenever you read 1984, or if you never have, I highly recommend reading it. I recommend reading it now, because everybody read it, 10, 20 years ago, as part of a requirement for school, and they probably didn't pay attention to it. And everybody has these false memories, right, from 1984 of what that book is about. And you'll hear people on the left use it, you'll hear people on the right use it, and they'll say, oh, 1984 is a perfect example of what Donald Trump is doing, what Bernie Sanders is doing, what Elizabeth Warren wants to do, and they'll do all this, this back and forth. But if you read it now, and most of those people have not read it in 10, 20 years, so they have this incorrect memory of what the book was really about. And I just finished rereading it, and there is no argument whatsoever in it for anyone on the political left that they can use and say, oh, this is clearly Donald Trump is, we need to make Orwell fiction again is what we need to do. Donald Trump is out here turning his place into 1984, But if you read it again, you're like, the whole story is about socialism being the primary government, and it's run just like the political left wants to run the government, and all the things that they are pushing, it's all part of that. There are now I did go through and I made notes and I made little highlights or whatever in certain instances that are damaging to the left, ones that are damaging to the right, and I maybe highlighted 2 or 3 things for things that are damaging to the right, and I was like, because I was really trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I was like, well, maybe there's a little bit for everybody. Maybe it's a bipartisan type of anti-government in general thing. No, it is just a big giant dump on the political left, and anybody who pushes it. Go ahead, please.
One thing I would say about that is that I think you could see a lot of that 1984 stuff, say in the George W. Bush era, after the Patriot Act, yeah. And but that element is still in the Republican Party without a doubt. It's
not unfortunate. Yeah.
I don't even know. I want to say Trump's not that, but the longer we go on, then the less I feel he's helping us and the common people, and he's still just one of those weird neocons.
No, I get it. There are, this isn't the episode that will do that. We can as we go through if we notice things.
I think it'll be more relevant as we talk. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely do that. I didn't want to turn this into a whole episode because we tend to do that. We tend to go into these political rants, which is cool. But today I know we got a lot of stuff to cover, and I don't want to bog it down. But there's something that I do now that I finished rereading it. There's this whole setup of this language that they create in the book, not as complex as a Tolkien book or whatever, where he literally made a whole language. They have this new speak, right? And it's basically just the dumbing down of the English language for the purpose of correspondence. Ultimately, by 2050, they intended to make it the permanent language for everybody to be speaking. And what it is they just stripped a lot of the extra words that weren't really necessary. And so it would be for the word good, they were like, well, we don't need great or stupendous or amazing because good works just as well. We'll just tack the word plus. So you can say good plus or plus good, or you can say double plus good, which means really, really good. That's the whole concept. And they, it's so complex as far as the rules that they made for the language. And you can actually read it in the appendix of the book. They explain kind of a brief essay of how it works, because there's 3 different groups of vocabulary and A, B, and C, and and then you can group words together to make these group B vocabularies. Anyways, but I started doing this thing when people use words that are just the reinvention. So an example would be, instead of calling them illegal immigrants, we're supposed to call them undocumented migrants, right? And or undocumented workers. Like it's, yeah, and
just passing through.
I just call them
Yeah.
criminals, man. That's they're friggin' criminals.
sure, and I
That's
agree,
right.
which is why I started doing this thing where I say, if somebody says something like that or they try to correct me and whatever it is, and with their new definitions, or like, oh, that sounds like, or that's fascism, and you're like, what? And they're like, well, fascism is defined as, and they'll give like this new version of new definition of the word fascism. I always say, and same thing with the undocumented workers or undocumented migrants, I say that just sounds like a whole bunch of liberal newspeak gobbledygook, you know. And
You know what it is? It's that they like change the definitions of words so that it can fit their narrative.
Always
Exactly.
moving the goalposts. That's
It's
why
so
we're all racist now, is because they'll always move the goalpost.
Yeah, and you will never. And I saw somewhere somebody had talked about, and this is what got me into trouble because I repeated this line. I said, "What constitutes as racist now is the same thing that constituted being a witch in the 1400s." Like, there's really you can weigh me against a duck and say, if you're heavier than the duck, you're a racist. You know, that's what it's boiled down to. And it's the world we live in, but whatever. We're all racist now. So
Well,
go ahead,
do.
Yakov. You've
I
got
got
something to say.
a little bit in 1984 posting myself. Everyone, when you read the book, you see like you expect scanners and drones and cameras and these things flying up to your window and looking. That's not how it is. You have some tranny with a iPhone like recording you screaming that you're a Nazi and like streaming it to YouTube. Then you can't get a job anymore. And that's like the scariest part. It's so much worse than the book says.
That's when I would flash them. I'd show them the dark side of the moon.
Oh, you're not allowed to. No, there's I mean, you've got the TVs in the room that are that monitor you all the time, and they go, Winston, or no, whatever the fuck his name is, such and such, Smith, you need to be exercising better. Like, if you don't exercise right from your room and the TV's watching you, they bitch at you or whatever. It's actually a really fascinating book. I highly recommend everybody read it. And, you know, like a lot of the people now that are very like social, they're like pro-socialism. They're all of a sudden like very anti 1984 because I guess somebody told them, yeah, well, they're like, well, Orwell was a socialist. Well, yeah, but he talked about how much he fucking hated socialism. And, you know, and he demonstrated in his books, like, if you read Animal Farm, that's another great example of like, some people are created more equal than others, and it goes into a lot of the socialist and that sort of stuff.
Right.
The only thing that was like damaging, specifically where they're talking shit about capitalists, and it's because Big Brother is telling them, hey, the capitalists are big fat guys who sit around and smoke cigars and take all your money. So it's not even like it was like a popular, or like the Vox Populi, oh, the capitalists are the fucking enemy. It was Big Brother who was who's Bernie Sanders, essentially, like Bernie Sanders, the legend of Bernie Sanders. And but yeah, let's I mean, I guess we could probably move into things because I know we do want to talk. We have some really cool stuff. I know there's some people, Dirk Sturmer, I mentioned you, Justin, Megabit Banshee, appreciate all the input and all the likes and all that shit on Instagram.
Good to see you, Matt.
I do see that.
Good to see you,
Mateo,
Elvis.
L, yeah, Matt, Never Trust an Elf, welcome. Just want to make sure I get everybody, and I think I saw Sassy Squatch in the chat if she hasn't already left. But you know, that's what happens when we start getting into a political rant. They're like, oh, it's going to be one of these fucking episodes. Since half of you don't know what tonight's episode is about, I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic on over to Yakov, who is in the chat. You may remember him from such gems as You Had Me at Skinwalkers. He was the funny guy on that episode. Whereas the rest of us rubes were sitting back and listening to him talk about Skywalker Ranch. But I will hand it over to Yakov, and Yakov, why don't you go ahead and tell us, how do you feel about the Jews?
Oh man, they're just my favorite people, and on this stream we support the state of Israel, and I just want every fucking Israeli citizen to get a brand new car.
And
That's all I
let
want.
me take this opportunity to say that The views and events expressed on this episode are not necessarily the views and events expressed by the people on You Had Me at Bigfoot, neither me nor myself. These are all Yakov's opinions, and we are... No, we obviously brought Yakov on here because we do a lot about conspiracies, and there are a lot of... It's undeniable, there are a lot of conspiracies surrounding the Jewish people. Specifically, we're going to try to avoid any kind of anti-Semitism. However, anti-Zion, anti-Semitism sometimes play into one another, and we will undoubtedly be accused of anti-Semitism. So in advance, we would like to apologize to anybody who is not part of the political or elite of Israel.
I would like to add, if I could just add real quick, I'd like to add that I'm not an anti-Semite. I don't have anything against Jews. And
you will be after tonight, bro.
And I've never dated a Jew girl, and I would love to date a Jew girl because I never have. So just so we're clear, if there's any Jew girls out there listening,
I'm gonna go ahead
and also I'm not clear if saying
getting
Jew...
a date with a beautiful Jewish woman.
Oh yeah, Jewish. I kept saying Jew girl. I guess that might sound a tad bit racist. Say, look at that Jew girl with her big nose. Their big nose. Yeah. So just so we're clear, I've seen some attractive Jew girls.
You know what's happened.
I just made the tally go up. Jew girls and their big noses.
Now every time anything anti-Semitic
to me, I find it attractive.
Like I said, anything anti-Semitic is said, we're gonna add to the counter. Okay, so go ahead. The floor is yours, Yakov. Take it away, and let's try to keep that number in the double digits. All right.
Yeah. I thought maybe I'd be up against a tough crowd tonight, but I see my boys all out there representing, so I feel pretty ballsy about it. Because we were talking about the Oscars. Did you know that one of the Oscar winners quoted the Communist Manifesto in their acceptance speech?
Communist, is that Karl Marx or?
That is Marx. That's Karl Marx.
Well, he co-signed it, kind of like how James Patterson, they put his name underneath when somebody else writes a book, and then they just put John Smith, and then underneath it writes James Patterson in big letters, and then a little name underneath it, and then it's really the little name, but they want to tack James Patterson on there so it'll sell more books. Same thing with Stephen King. Half the shit Stephen King doesn't even write. And it still sucks.
Yeah, is he a Jew? Is that guy a Jew too?
Stephen King is not. I think he's a Shabbos goy, as they say. he does the heavy lifting on the Sabbath when the Jews aren't allowed to get their hands.
They say Gentile, right? Does that mean you're not a Jew? You're a Gentile.
Or goy. Goy is the term that's like your cattle. That's their term for beasts of burden like us.
Why is that so funny? I love that it diminishes everybody but Jews. You know what? Here's an interesting addition. Recently, something I found out about I think it's Hebrew. You know the word schmuck? You know that means penis?
I thought it was what's the stuff that's inside the penis, like the nasty
the smegma.
That's the one. That's what I was saying.
That's the good stuff.
I thought that was from my
Yeah, that too.
From
I meant within the well, they don't have foreskins, right? So...
Oh yeah, that's right.
I want mine back.
The stuff in their weenus.
All right, Yakov, you were saying something about your foreskin?
Yeah, well, this bitch took my foreskin, and basically she got an Oscar for it. Julia Reichert, she ended her speech with "Workers of the world unite," and now I'm first of all I'm thinking that McCarthy was probably right. First and foremost, you know what I'm saying there?
Did the communists? You're talking about
these fucking people in Hollywood are all commies. They're definitely all commies, right? They're all liberal fucking assholes. They're all talking about socialism and how we need more regulations for the environment, all this stupid socialism crap. They're all commies, and they always have been. Mm-hmm. Now, this lady who quoted the Communist Manifesto in her speech, she came to prominence with some documentary it debuted at the Jewish International Film Festival, mm-hmm. and it was a movie about Jewish immigrants in New York during the 20th century. So you can see those ties. And then, do you guys know anything about the crossover between Judaism and communism?
No.
Crossover.
There's a lot of overlap there, my dude.
Like a crossover episode. Or like Friends was on like an episode of Frasier or something.
I think friends are all Jews. Jays. Trying to be safe here. They're not my friends.
So
Wait a
funny.
minute. Was that a anti-Semitic remark?
It's so funny. The word Jew is also the racial epithet for Jew. So it's just a matter of how you say it. You could be like, "Oh yeah, they're Jews," or you could be like, "Man, those guys are Jews."
Damn it,
They're
Vicky.
Zionists. They're Jays.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Oh, sorry. Continue. Man.
Turns out the Bolsheviks during the Russian Revolution, they're basically all Jayish. You had and Marx obviously Jayish, and then his predecessor, what was his name? Moses Hess, very Jayish.
Well, yeah.
He was kind of the founder of Zionism. And some people say that he wrote the Communist Manifesto. I think up in the air on that. But
Well, supposedly it was written by Friedrich Engels.
Well,
Yes.
that's like a bunch of Bolshevik to me.
He's the only one who wasn't J. He's the only one. So I don't think he was behind it when the whole thing was
That's the entire Communist Manifesto that you just held up. The whole
It is.
thing.
It's a very short book.
It's like a pamphlet.
It's
A light read. It's like a toilet read.
Seize the means of production, comrade.
at this point. Doesn't matter. But the Bolsheviks, like Lenin was Jayish, Trotsky was Jayish. If you pull up the Bolsheviks on Wikipedia, and you just start.
Isn't Trotsky like a slang term for diarrhea? Like you have the Trotsky.
Oh God, big F in chat for this whole thing that we're doing. Yeah. So when you start clicking the names under Bolshevism, like you'll see that like it's pretty mind-boggling. You end up seeing that like 75% of these people are from the tribe, and you start like putting together like these are people who are never much more than like 2% of a society. But then in all of these different places, they have all of this overrepresentation, whether it's Hollywood and all of these things. And I think it might start around this time when these guys were putting together the ideas that became like modern Zionism and communism. And I think it gets all crazy too, because Bolshevism was funded by the German American Jacob
I'm
Schiff.
sorry, doesn't Bolshevism sound like it's such a funny word? It sounds to me like it's like a like if you were bullshitting somebody and then like the
Come on, don't Bolshevism me.
yeah, it's like the method of bullshitting, like you're Bolshevising.
It's the study, no, it's the study of Bolshev.
Yeah, the study of bullshit. There you go. There you go. He was studying Bolshevism.
The
Yeah.
Bolshevik Revolution that overthrew the monarchy was funded by a German-American Jacob Schiff, whose father was a broker for the Rothschilds previously. He was elected director of Wells Fargo, so he's a big-time banker. He was connected to the Warburg dynasty. He was a big banking dynasty in the early 1900s. All these guys are connected to what became like the Federal Reserve and everything, but like these are the interests that bankrolled the entire Russian Revolution. And it was the
Rothschilds, right? They were Jews too, right? Aren't they Jews?
Absolutely. They're the most prolific Jayish dynasty in history. They are the patriarchs of modern banking. They're probably the richest line in history still to this day. And all of these, a lot of these other names, these other banking names, whether it's Warburg or Schiff or all these people who ended up in like high positions in the banks you know today, the banks that you go to, the Federal Reserve, which is fucking us all every day. Like these people are from those lines. They're from these banking families.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like Rothschild tentacles, basically. They say the Star of David, it came from the Rothschild coat of arms, which was a red hexagram, and the name means red shield. So like that's where that symbol even comes from. That doesn't even go back to like the Old Testament or anything.
I always thought it was like a pentagram or something.
It's
like,
very similar because they're both ritual magic things.
Real? Oh yeah, isn't there something with like Judaism or what is it called where they do magic? Don't the Jews have like magic that they do? What's the
Kabbalah.
magic? What's the magic that Jews do?
Kabbalah.
Kabbalah, yeah, they have Jewish magic. What does
Yeah.
that entail? Does anybody know anything about that?
Its most obvious form these days is in Freemasonry. Everything the Freemasons do, all of their rituals are Kabbalistic. I actually have Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike, who was like a grandmaster of Freemasonry. He was like a Confederate general. He was a pretty he had a lot going for him.
He was a Jew. He was a Jew too, right? Wasn't he a Jew?
He was not. He actually was not. He was a 33rd degree Mason, the
I'm just
Scottish
gonna
rite.
accuse everybody of being a Jew.
That's what I do on my show.
I was a Jew. He was a Jew.
This book, Morals and Dogma, when you look at the index, it's got a crazy index. So every word that's used in it has its own like passage and everything. But Kabbalah has like 2 pages. 2 pages of this book, which is basically the handbook for Scottish Rite Freemasonry, is just dedicated to Kabbalah.
I thought that, well, you know, it's got me thinking. Do you think that maybe like their haggling skills comes from the ability to do magic?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. They have magical Jew skills.
They have the Force, and that's why Star Wars is Jewish.
What? Oh yeah, that's right. Because George Lucas, he's a Jew, right?
I don't. Spielberg sure is, and Lucas is very connected to Spielberg. So Spielberg.
Yeah. Well, when
He
you
was
got a
on
last
the
name like
pedophile
that,
island.
What
Yeah.
about, can you go over like a list of people that we wouldn't suspect of being Jews? I'm going to have this ready to go.
Dude, it's more like I feel like if you start just thinking of people, you got your Schumers and everything. You Chuck Schumers. You start
Oh
thinking
yeah,
of
let's
Hollywood.
talk about, you said Schiff. Adam Schiff. Is he a Jew?
that sounds pretty Jewish to me.
Schiff
That sounds
is generally a J-ish name.
What
Yeah.
about,
Well, you got your Steins and your Bergs and your
Steins and Bergs and Bounds and Blatts.
yeah.
what about
Oh, here's
Goldbergstein's?
Alicia Silverstone. I'm sorry about that one. That one hurt me. That hurt me.
Alicia Silverstone is a Jew?
Silverstein.
Now, is
Yeah.
she like a practicing Jew, or is
She was-
she?
I always liked her in
Just like-
Clueless. Remember Clueless?
Well, of
Dude,
course I
I'm getting a
remember
boner
Clueless.
just thinking about it.
She was hot.
Hell yeah. I know. That's the one that fucked me up. But like, and you think about Hollywood, all these people who kind of look like Adam Sandler, they're all J-ish. You know the ones. Your Jerry Seinfeld. Your fucking Ben Stillers and your I don't know who's in Hollywood these days.
They're
Frankly,
all
it's
Jew.
a whole lot of
Everybody
fucking
in
black
Hollywood's
people.
a
these
Jew.
days.
The majority of the
Wait,
actors
what was
are
that? I don't have like any kind of black guy racist thing ready. So let's not be racist towards any other minorities. All right.
I don't have a problem. But this is the issue. I think there's like a group of people in power who want to see white people become a minority, and they are expediting the process through their control of Hollywood, the media, corporations, and the government. I think a lot of these people are dual citizens with Israel, and it pisses me off.
Really?
Buzz
Can you
Busby
name-
just came into the Buzz Busby just said in the chat that the red hair girl from that 70s show is half Jewish. Now
Oh,
the thing
she
with
sucks.
her,
I don't like her.
she's actually a Scientologist.
Really? Xenu, huh?
Same thing.
Oh, really?
Jay is
Okay. Well,
Scientologist.
explain to us the connection between Scientology and JDism.
They're both fronts for pedophilia.
Hey, you know what, Tom? You know what I just remembered?
Yep,
you,
yep,
you
yep.
did you not do your shot today?
I did. I said it was. I said
What
to
did you-
getting you a nice Jewish girlfriend.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, a
So
good
yeah,
Jew.
I did it because Mike called me out in the chat.
You know
He
what I
said,
really like about the Jew girls is they have that, especially if they're from New York, and then they talk. They always have that, and
Oh,
then they-
Ryan.
I like
God,
that.
I want to shoot myself.
I
Just
think I like
listening to
that. I think I would like to be with a Jew girl that has that kind of attitude. Like, what's that? Pamela Aldoon. You guys know who Pamela Aldoon is?
I don't.
Oh man, look her up, dude. She was on what's the name? Oh yeah, Fran Drescher. Catherine, good call. I just noticed that one. Fran Drescher to me is so hot, and I love her voice. For something about Fran Drescher to me is like so hot. It's probably her voice, but she's definitely a Jew for sure. I mean, definitely, right?
Well, her maiden name is Goldbergstein.
Goldberg scene. Yeah.
You know what's really Jay-ish?
Yeah.
CNN.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Isn't the main... You know what I'm just gonna do from now on? I'm just gonna change it to this screen, and then do the Nazi thing, and then we'll go back to whoever we were talking. Because it's getting too complicated. I can't keep up.
I told tally them and then show it when it's.
It's too late. The damage has been done.
The shit posting has got me way off my timeline. I'm just trying to pick up the pieces.
So where were we? Let's start with you. We didn't even start where you wanted to start.
No, that's fine. As long as we get. That's the thing. Once we get going, It's fine.
So let's do that. Let's go chronologically, I guess is the way you said you wanted to handle it.
All right. So I think there's a lot of bullshit going around about the Holocaust. Come right out and say it. I fucking don't believe a lot of the hype, and I think people just want to make me feel bad about something that I had nothing to fucking do with. And basically the whole thing is fucking propaganda to make me support Israel, I think. Because let me just go into some of these fucking stories. Let's go into this. I thought this was funny. Someone asked on Yahoo Answers, what percentage of Holocaust victims were fed to the bear at the Buchenwald concentration camp zoo? Now, this is from a New York Times article where one Mr. Hubert, who is a survivor of Buchenwald, said, in the camp, there was a cage with a bear and an eagle, he said. Every day, they would throw a Jew in there. The bear would tear him apart, and the eagle would pick at his bones. But that's unbelievable, whispered a visitor. It's unbelievable, said Mr. Hubert. But it happened. And surely that did not fucking happen, because that's the stupidest thing I've ever goddamn heard.
That's a pretty good impression of them, I'd say. That's probably what they sound like. That's probably what they sound like too. Although I don't know what they sound like, but
yeah, that's one story. Is that there was a bear and an eagle, and that's absolutely fucking ridiculous to me.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is from Haaretz.com, which is a very, very Jewish news source. Did the Nazis really use bodies of murdered Jews to make soap? And to cut to the chase, the answer is no. But if I believe it hard enough, you have to feel bad.
How many soaps did they make with it?
6 million!
Hey, Justin Walker made a good point in the comments. He said, I believe that. Why would you kill a free slave labor during war? I mean, that's a pretty solid point.
That's the thing. That's the argument, is that they were work camps. That's what's going on. And like when you see the people who are like emaciated and they're clearly not doing well, these are images from the end of the war after the Allies had already bombed all those supply lines and they couldn't get there. These people were starving to death and they couldn't get their medicine. And you had things like dysentery and you had typhus breaking out all over the place. So these people were not in good conditions. But like these are things that happen in war, especially when the Allies are committing war crimes that are never brought up, like bombing the supply lines to make sure that these people did suffer.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that's the thing is I'm not like an apologist for Hitler. I'm not like a worshiper of that shit. I don't feel very German at all. In fact, I feel very American. And
are you German?
I got some German blood in.
Nice.
Well, there it is.
So, I got another author of fake Holocaust memoir.
I guess that doesn't go well.
$22.5 million to publisher. And now Misha de Fonseca, whose book claims she was raised in hiding by wolves, must give back the damages she had won from her publisher. So de Fonseca's extraordinary story was published almost 20 years ago as Misha, a memoir of the Holocaust years, described how when she was 6, her Jewish parents were taken from their homes by the Nazis and how she set off across Belgium to find them until she was adopted by a pack of wolves. That's the story. It was proven false.
Nobody's ever been adopted by a pack of wolves, man. That only happens in cartoons.
Dude, it's fucking Jungle Book. Now, she ends up saying,
wait a minute, that was a monkey.
This is her defense. It's not true reality, but it is my reality. There are times when I find it difficult to differentiate between reality and my inner world. So,
I love that she sounds like an asthmatic cigarette smoker.
Dude, this is the thing
Ryan, it may not be the real story.
That's
your
wife,
on. Dude.
Yeah, that's my wife.
Dude, the key is always like,
Jew girl
maybe
from
it didn't
Brooklyn.
happen. Maybe you had nothing to do with it, but still feel bad because I feel bad. It's like this narcissism that's passed down is almost a religion now. And like I question what's when they ask like Jews, like what makes a person Jewish? What is it to be Jewish? They say remembering the Holocaust. That's what wins polls in Jewish communities. So that's like that's their religion.
Or no, they don't get circumcised. Wait, do they get circumcised or they don't?
Yeah, man, they made me get circumcised. It's their fault.
How dare they?
God damn it.
Wait a minute. Let's pedal back here. There's something that I'm unclear on, and this is probably, not a shocker. But what Jews, they don't get circumcised or they do get circumcised?
They do. Yes, that's the covenant that God made with Abraham. He said that they would have to get circumcised. This is back in, whatever BC, whatever you want to, whatever number that you want to attribute.
It was to differentiate them from the goys so that they didn't mix with them, because they were supposed to have an ethno state. They're allowed to have.
Like, at what point do they go, okay, pull down your pants and let me see, are you circcircumcised? And that's how they knew they were Jewish?
So
like, couldn't they just
more about a mixing of blood? It was to make, it was probably to turn off the heathen women or whatever, something like that.
So here's what happened. When you were born on whatever day, I don't remember what day, it's like the 6th or whatever day, they would circumcise you. It was a ritual that they would do. And I mean, I'm sure, so here's the thing, being Jewish back then, and I mean, even still to this day, is kind of like being a vegan or an atheist or somebody who does CrossFit, for instance. You can't like walk into a room without telling everybody in the room that you are Jewish. You know what I mean?
Okay, this is something that like I wasn't aware, and this is probably gonna laugh, but are Jews aren't a race of people? They're like, it's like a religion, right?
They are primarily a race of people, and even the ones that don't espouse a religion will claim to be racial Jews. I thought it was
like Hebrew,
have a racial preference.
Because there's no country called like Jewland.
There is, and it's fucking Israel. That is fucking.
Well, it's
J-land.
not a country; it's a nation state.
Fucking occupied territory.
Yeah.
But aren't you Hebrew if you're from Israel? You're not Jewish.
So Hebrew is the religion, and Jewish is. It's kind of like, so you can be both, or you can be one, but you can't be, or I guess you can be the other, because you can be from Israel, or you can be of Jewish descent and be Jewish and not practice Judaism. You can be a descendant of a tribe of Israel and not practice the religion, or you can practice it and still be Jewish either way. You can also move into you can marry into it, or you can convert to Judaism.
All of these people, no matter where they are in the world.
Then you're not really a full-blooded Jew, you're just Jewish.
Sounds like a bunch of Bolshevik to me.
Dude, all these people, no matter where they are in the world,
laughed at that joke.
they see it was good. They see themselves as one tribe. That's the thing, and that they always do that. And that's the one thing that white Americans are not allowed to do, is to see themselves as one tribe and talk about how great they are as one thing.
You know who doesn't? You know who the people are who claim to be one tribe? It's the non-tribe of Judah Jews. Like, the only people who are like, no, we're the tribe of Judah. Like, those are the people who brag about it. Everyone else is like, we're all just one tribe. Let's one team here, Jews, okay? Because the tribe of Judah. I see
a lot of cooperation on their behalf, and they stick to their people, and they love. I don't know. I don't see them squabbling.
I hate to keep like interrupting here, but
please,
I'm still like confused. I'm still confused. So their race is called Jew, and their religion is called Judaism. That's like, to me, that's like if I was, I'm Mexican and my religion was called Mexicanism.
The thing is, that would make sense because you can't convert to Judaism. You can, but they don't take it seriously. You don't get to go to Israel. All Jews, all racial Jews, they're allowed to emigrate to Israel at any time. They can go and get their citizenship and just live there at any time. That's
the fascinating thing is,
I can't do that. You can't do that.
They can have dual citizenship. So you have a lot of like Americans who are in politics who hold dual citizenship with Israel as well as the United States.
And these are the fucking Democrats that are turning this fucking country into goddamn Brazil. And when this turns into a shithole, they're going to have more loyalty to that other fucking country than to this one. They're just going to dip out, and all their people are going to hold all the fucking money.
What's wrong with Brazil, man? I heard they
I'm
like
talking
anal
about
up
fucking
there.
Democrats right now. It's just the Democrats. Goddamn Democrats.
It's my understanding that in Brazil they like anal a lot.
They
The
like anal here.
the chicks.
They fucking love it. They're dressing kids up in drag and shit.
That's
and you
true.
gotta understand.
Yeah, that's true.
When fucking Hitler was like burning books and declaring himself dictator, and that wasn't a declaration. He actually got that through. He passed that legitimately.
Wait,
but
what?
the point is, when he was doing that, he was stopping the same crap we're seeing now. This fucking around with the economy and the sexualization of children. This was all crap that was going on in Weimar Germany. So I'm not one to sit here and talk about how great he is, but the problem is that we destroyed his country.
Who?
The America and
Bolsheviks?
the after World War I, the Treaty of Versailles. I got this.
Oh yeah. Those guys were Jewish, right?
I probably have this all fucked up at this point.
No,
but
hey,
the point
here's
is,
what I want you to do, Yakov, all right? Make a believer out of us. Like, why should we not necessarily forgive Hitler? That's because I don't think anyone's trying to make that argument.
Well,
But
I think he had.
why should we forgive some of his actions based on our values today, like our core values today? I want to hear.
First
I
of
want to
all,
hear something like that.
here's the thing: is that a lot of that crap that was going on, and yes, it was the Treaty of Versailles that ended up crippling Germany's economy and giving them pretty similar issues that we have now. What Hitler was rising up with was the similar things that are pissing off the Republicans today. And the problem is, like, we're not stopping it. And when we don't stop it, white people are going to become a minority, and no Republican or conservative or anything will ever be able to win politically again. And it'll be too goddamn late. And like the drag kids will never stop. And the crime will never stop. The drugs will never stop. And like,
Did you say drag kids?
Drag kids.
So yeah, talk about
term?
that, Yakov. That's a thing, V, and it's like it's going on right now. It's pretty fucking gross, and it'll piss you off. So please, Yakov, explain the drag kids thing to him.
It's becoming a thing to like. Well, first of all, you had like they were drag queens showing up at libraries reading to children. That's bad enough, and that was becoming like a normal thing. Well, then it goes on that like children under 10 are transitioning into the other sex, probably because they played with the wrong toy or something, or their mom is crazy and trying to live vicariously through them. But it's going on in Texas where they're giving kids hormones that transition them into the opposite sex. What the fuck does a child know about sexuality? It should know nothing about sexuality, and if it does know something about sexuality, there's a serious fucking problem.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And these are the things when the Nazis were burning books, and Mateo's in chat, and drop the name of that book if you got it. What was that one you told me? It was something like the sex lies of children or something. That's how it translated from the German. They were burning books that were all about weird gay kid shit, and like it was straight up communism, the things that are going to fucking ruin us today. And it's like, I understand like the need for some swift authoritarian action. I get that very much. It doesn't make all these other things right. It doesn't necessarily make the enabling act right. It doesn't necessarily make me like, it doesn't like the Reichstag was an issue for me.
What is that? A picture of Queen Palpatine reading?
Amidala. Yeah.
Yeah, her.
That's the drag queen story hour. It's actually
You said that's funny to me that you corrected me on that.
well, I had to because I'm a fucking Star Wars nerd. So
yeah.
I actually remember I got corrected one time because I said I want to try to put this on the screen for you, V, because I don't want to drag it over. Drag.
Oh yeah, I see.
I don't want to like copy and paste every single picture, but yeah, you can go to dragqueenstoryhour.org and you can pull it up, and it's a bunch of dudes, and it talks about where they're going to libraries and reading to kids. And I mean, you can even get this merchandise if you want. I guess.
Imagine being a kid, like, dude, this is what I imagine as a kid. Like if I were in school as a kid and like all of a sudden all these drag queens came in to read to me, that would be so incredibly uncomfortable. Like I'd be so like,
not after they've done all this work to normalize it in the so, and especially you got to be look at. I don't like picking on. Well, I do like picking on it because it's California, but I don't always like pointing fingers at you and being like your state, because I know you hate all the shit too. But California is notorious for a lot of its ultra weird, all the stuff that Yakov is yelling about right now, like all that stuff is like the ground zero is California. Like that's their testing facility. That entire state, they're introducing these like kindergarten sex ed classes where they're teaching kindergartners how to have sex. And
I heard the only legal form of self-defense in California is infecting other people with HIV.
Well, that's a misdemeanor. That is a misdemeanor. You are charged like a small fine, and then you're sent on your way. But yeah, Jesus. Like California it's notorious for that sort of stuff. If you want, and I don't know if you've heard of that, V, but that's a thing now. Like you can go to prison for misgendering somebody in California, but yeah, and I'm not kidding. Like if somebody says, well, I'm female or whatever, if I were to come to you and say, well, you can't call me he or him, you can't refer to me that way, you have to refer to me as her. And if you do, and then say you do, you can say, whatever, dude. And then I report you, you can go to prison for that. But
that's ridiculous.
If you have sex with a woman who knows she has like the final stages of HIV and AIDS, like she's full-blown AIDS, and she's like, why you didn't notice the fact that her eyes were sunken in and she was like coughing like spittle of blood, like why you didn't notice that, I don't know. But like if you fuck a chick who has AIDS and you get HIV from her and she didn't tell you and she knew she had it, she can be like, oh well, yeah, I didn't tell him, doesn't matter to me. Like, who cares?
What a bitch.
Like, criminalistic sharing of HIV knowingly is a misdemeanor that you pay a fine for in California. That's it.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that if I go around calling people faggots as I do, that I could end up in jail?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Like, and probably prison because it's California. But yeah, that's becoming a big movement across the nation, and it kind of started. Its flagship was California.
But
a lot of these programs, flagships
like
are California.
Violation of the First Amendment. Like, I should be able to say whatever the.
No, let me stop you. Pump the brakes, or hold on there, Professor. Like like we would say. So First Amendment, it protects your ability to say what you want. It does not necessarily protect you from the consequences, which is kind of how they
I say
that
I think that's bullshit.
I agree.
I agree. The consequences are illegal though, correct?
Right, but you're not going to get any of the folks from the ninth district or whatever typically, who handles those sorts of cases out in California. You're not going to get somebody from out there to do it, and most of the judges are more radically like they lead this political battle for progressive liberalism.
They're wearing women's panties underneath their judge clothing.
Yeah, and you have a harder time pushing conservative type of agenda through the courts. I mean, like the funny thing about Trump is, and this is something that a lot of people hate about him. Well, they love it and then they hate it because they'll have a radical liberal judge who's supposed to be partisan, but whatever. Or bipartisan, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be bipartisan, but they never are. You'll have one of them challenge something that he does or says or whatever, and everyone cheers. They're like, oh, we got him, we win. Is this what it's called? The art of the deal. Is this what it's called? Is this all that winning you were talking about, Donald? And then it goes, he says, okay, well, let's run it through the courts. And then it runs through the courts and he always wins. But you will never have like conservative judges confront any kind of judicial action in that way that the liberals do, which is unfortunate because we are affected just as much as a lot of these things that are coming out and affecting the left-leaning population. We don't have any conservative judges who are going to bat for us and taking the time to write up these memorandums of dissent or challenging them in court and saying, hey, you can't touch like this West Virginia situation with the legislation that's trying to pass in West Virginia, and I believe it just passed the House today or yesterday maybe, but they were talking about how they've got these gun bans and confiscation bills that pass the House. So these are the types of things that we should have conservative judges up in arms over in, I don't know, Idaho, because it doesn't matter where you are. If you are a judge and you write it and say you can't do that, then it has to go through the process, no matter where you are, even if it's a West Virginia bill. So, or I'm sorry, it's not West Virginia. West Virginia is a good one. I believe it's regular, normal gun grabbing Virginia with Governor Blackface. But yeah, it's that sort of activism that like we're not fighting with. And I think Yakov, I know, I don't want to say that you're pushing for like this nihilistic anarchist type black bloc type stuff where you go out and maybe set cars on fire initially.
I don't even know what the fuck I want anymore.
So but I will say, like, the sort of activism that we need that we don't have is that judicial activism that the left seems to champion. And
I think we've
that's
utterly
the way,
lost that.
yeah, and I mean, if that's what it takes, we need to have somebody to do it, and we don't have those people who are willing to, you know, stand up and say, "Hey, this is bullshit." And if it doesn't come to that, all those things that you were talking about, yes, it's going to result in a lot of conservatives who are gun owners becoming violent. And if they think that the radical left is violent, they have yet to see what violent really is. And that's not a threat; it's a warning, really. Go ahead.
It is. I understand. I've been with you for years. I got my pinned Twitter post is exactly that from like 2 years ago. And here's the thing: in my state, they're already going around to people's houses and confiscating their guns because of alleged anti-Semitism. Now, dude, I don't know what that means. The dude wasn't charged with a crime or anything, and I've like hated Zionism since I was like 14. So basically, at any point right now, the government could fucking kick my door open, come in, start stealing all my shit, and just be like, I'm a white nationalist terrorist and I have no rights anymore. It's basically what I'm getting out of this. Now, the dude who it happened to, he was on the internet, and I think he ended up praising the Christchurch shooter, and he probably said some things about hating Jays or something like that. But the thing is, all of that is free speech. There was no threat. There was nothing like that. He didn't commit a crime, and he was a 51-year-old bus driver. This guy was not a fucking threat. Now they're just going around and here's the thing. Now that they're going around taking people's guns over alleged anti-Semitism, the First Amendment's gone, Second Amendment's gone.
Hey, remember though the Patriot Act, how wide sweeping that is, and unfortunately it just passed again, or it was just renewed, right? That the rules within that are like so vague that if they suspect you of possibly maybe, you know, wrongthink, right? We were talking about 1984 earlier. They suspect you of wrongthink, then they can come and take you away and not give you your phone call, not let you see anybody, not give you an attorney. They can do all that bullshit because of wrongthink, which is what I think you were talking about with George Bush instituting the Patriot Act, right? A lot of those things are very much 1984.
Well, the things they said about Nazi Germany, how you'd like be afraid your neighbors are snitching on you and all this shit. Like, that's the things that I was taught about Nazi Germany. That's how I feel right the fuck now. You know, I feel like I could come get carted off any fucking second. So it's like, I don't know. It's all very, very disgusting. Frankly, can I get back to the Holocaust?
Yeah, please.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about something.
Whatever. You know, this is what we do. We get off onto these tangents. So this is part one of canceled. You had me at canceled. So.
Yeah. So here's the thing. There is no like hard evidence that the final solution was about genocide. What they call the hard evidence comes from the Nuremberg trials, which is often considered like a kangaroo court where they were just trying to make examples out of people, and they were probably torturing people, and they're probably lying to people to get them to say what they want. And they just took the Nazis that they actually liked and flew them over to America in Project Paperclip and made them fucking the heads of the CIA and NASA or whatever the fuck we did. So I think that was all a fucking charade. Other than Nuremberg trials, there's like no shred of paper or anything that's any orders to slaughter Jews in a camp. No evidence of death camps at all on paper. There is evidence that Hitler was trying to move the Jews away from Germany. This is kind of funny, but it's true. The Madagascar Plan was a proposal by Nazi Germany to forcibly relocate the Jewish population of Europe to the island of Madagascar. So that was something that was going on in 1940. He was just trying to move them away. And there's like a lot of plans like this, trying to move them. And it seemed like it was what was going on in the camps. There's even some camps that were supposed to be a settlement for them. That's supposed to be some just granting them an area in Europe to live. And that's what some of the camps were. And that's like official stuff. The thing about the death camps is that they're all recreations. They're all Soviet recreations. And it fucking shows that they're Soviet when you see the chimney to the crematorium isn't even attached to the building. Mm-hmm. How the fuck does that work?
But what about, like, here's my counter to that is, what about all these Jews out there that like like went through it, and like they came back and they were like, man, that was not cool, man. The Holocaust, that happened, and
When
I
you
was there, and that
when you
wasn't
look
cool.
into those stories, the people didn't see anything. They saw they were taken apart from their loved ones. The men and women were separated and put into work camps. They assumed that the others were going off to die. And like, who knows if they'd see him again? Shit, all hell was about to break loose, and things were about to get really bad in these camps. So when they saw their loved ones getting taken away, they just assumed they were taken and killed. None of them really saw it happen. I'm sure some people did, and there's probably exceptions to that and everything. I'm not saying the camps are a good time, but I will say they had pools.
It was definitely a bummer. I'm assuming it was a bummer.
Yeah, but the thing is that if like camps are the big issue, well, America
V's
had fucking
official
camps.
statement about the Holocaust is the death camps were probably a bummer. That's V's official statement.
But so were the Japanese internment camps, in America. So like, if that's the charge, like all sides can get hit with fucking faults here. And then you have like the gas chambers, and there's like, once again, they're all recreations. There's no proof that any of these things actually worked. There's shit like the door to the gas chamber at Auschwitz is made of wood. Don't fucking work with gas. The thing's got a glass pane. These people aren't going to try to smash the thing getting out. Like, this is the worst design I've ever seen. There are fingernail marks on the concrete walls from them supposedly trying to struggle. How the fuck do you put marks in concrete with your fucking fingernails that stay there 100 fucking years later?
So I wanna address the elephant in the room. Are we saying that Hitler wasn't that bad of a guy? Is that what we're getting at here?
I'm basically saying he was just another dictator. And we can go from there.
Just
So,
another
like,
dictator.
let's compare him on a scale of, no, not a scale. Let's not do a scale. Let's do, like, you've got your list of dictators throughout history, and a lot of people will put Hitler at the top, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
people
He's
tend
far
to
and away
do
the
that.
top.
Right.
Far and away.
Where would you put him under? Like, who's like the next one?
Probably
up from
Stalin,
Hitler?
right?
Yeah, well,
Stalin.
then you start getting to like your Stalins and Maos and this and that, but like none of them are even close. Like, you're not supposed to feel bad about any of this shit.
Hey, did you hear that? Speaking of Mao, did you hear that thing about the guy that like he got arrested in China because he put his dick on Mao's corpse at the funeral for Mao? This is a real thing. Like at the funeral for Mao, like this Chinese dude like walked up to the corpse and like put his dick on him. That's a hell of a man. That's hilarious to me. But I think, with speaking in terms of Hitler, like I'm not for the guy or anything, but there are some things that like I've read, like I won't lie, like I read Mein Kampf when I was in junior high, and like I found it to be inspiring because it was like a well-written book. And like the way, like it's funny because like now when I do my writing and like if a bad guy is speaking, that's like a reference point for me for like the charismatic way of speaking, you know what I mean? But like then there are other things like as I grew older and kind of like understood science a little bit better, like eugenics. Like I always tell people like, well, Hitler, he kind of had the right idea, but he was just going about it the wrong way. And like I think eugenics could be a thing if we like really did it right, but there's too many people like breeding like willy-nilly, and so we've got all these retards running around. But like if
I'm
we
saying
stop
that's
letting
engineered.
if we stop letting people breed all willy-nilly, then maybe if we stop letting people breed all willy-nilly and just like created a master
They want the people here who are going to breed willy-nilly, and that's the fucking Somalis, and it's the fucking Mexicans, and it's not white people. White people are having like 2 kids apiece max. All these other people are having like 8 kids, whether they can afford it or not, and your fucking tax dollars are paying for it.
You know what? We were talking about who was the worst dictator, and you said Hitler was far and away the not even close to the top. One thing that I will say, a lot of people are like, well, the Nazis were terrible. I agree. Okay. I can agree with you based on these presented facts. Now, whether or not they're true, I tend to err towards they're true. Mostly because I'm like, well, I don't have any reason not to believe them or whatever. So, and that's what we were taught, right? So I'm like, okay, 6 million people died. That's a lot of people, and that's a shame. That's disgusting.
Yeah, but that number's symbolic.
Hold on. That's disgusting, and I hope that never happens again. But then you look at like communism, right? And you look at these communist dictators, and each of them, like 6 million, it pales in comparison to what most of these other dictators did the same. I mean, what they did to their people, 6 million pales in comparison to most of them, and that's communism, right? So people are like, well, communism, it's not that bad, right? But it's 100 million
because
people
of
in the
who
last
controls
100
our
years,
media,
right? And then Nazism, which again, based on the facts, based on what we know and the information that we have in front of us, Nazism, it's disgusting. It's a horrible theology, and I hope that 6 million people don't have to die again. Whether we're just talking about the Jews, the Gypsies, the gays, the handicaps, or whatever, because it was a lot of different people that were not Aryan, right, or their blood was. So it was like all these 6 million people who were dead. Disgusting. But let's not try to sit here and say, well, no, communism is different from Nazism. Because they're two totally different ideologies, and Nazism is this horrible tragedy, whereas communism, they're trying to do the right thing, and maybe there were some casualties, but that's still 100 million people, and we need to.
One thing to keep in mind that National Socialism was specifically a reaction to communism and the encroachment thereof. That was an attempt to completely wrestle power away from that group of people and put it in someone's hands who had the nation's best interests in mind. Whether you agree with that or not, that's definitely what the people believed who supported Hitler, which was basically the whole country.
Right. There was a joke that I heard. Let's lighten the mood here for a second. There was a joke that I heard where there was a rally and Hitler was up on stage and he was doing his thing, and he shouted, we have all these problems and we need to fix it. You know who we need to go after? And somebody in the front row said, the bicyclists. And then Hitler looked at him and said, why the bicyclists? And then the guy said, why the Jews? Right? So what was the reasoning behind the targeting the Jews?
They were controlling the economic and the economy and the media is the thing. Hitler's term was the Lügenpresse. He would say the Lügenpresse, the lying press. Just like we say fake news today or whatever. It's the same thing. And it's the same fucking people owning the goddamn thing. A lot of them have the same goddamn last names. And after Hitler took power, there was an article that came out, and hopefully I can find this goddamn thing. It was It said that world Judaism, Judea declares war on Germany. And you have all of these quotes by all of these like Jewish bankers and all of these people throughout the world about how evil Hitler and Germany is and all of this stuff. And they were declaring economic war. That's before any of this stuff even really started happening. So like there was an attempt to cripple that country. And like that's the thing, is that the people in power, they never want like a strong nationalist in control, because like there's people who are trying to control the entire world's money supply. And if you have a very nationalistic country, it's hard to do that. And that's why all the fucking neocons with all their fucking J-ish last names over there trying to topple all of these governments in the Middle East, whether it's Iraq or Iran or Libya or Syria or whatever the fuck it is.
Libya.
It's all because they're trying to help their people by selling their resources in their currency. The currency that the Jays don't own.
So is this would you what would you say the tie-in to like the New World Order is with the Jewish people? How would you kind of like marry those up, or would you put them apart, or is that kind of part of their
I think
agenda?
the New World Order is way too much of a catch-all. I think the New World Order, that idea, and it came from H.W. Bush. So he was the first one, I think, who coined the term, at least in public. So it seems to me that that's a very neocon thing. I think it relates to like the Project for the New American Century, PNAC. Have you ever heard of that?
Nuh-uh.
PNAC?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. Trying to run through my notes as fast as I can. Yeah, the founders of PNAC, the Project for the New American Century, William Crystal and Robert Kagan. And they called for a
Billy
new
Crystal?
Pearl Harbor, and this was not that one, the other dickhead. This was like in the 90s, I think. And these guys were they were called the Crazies in Washington, and they were literally calling for how great a new Pearl Harbor would be, so that we could go topple all of these regimes in the Middle East. And it was a bunch of the ones that we're currently doing. It was Iraq, it was Libya, it was Iran, it was Syria. They were all on the list. And the
That's
idea,
what
I think,
Cooper was talking about. He predicted 9/11. And he said it would be blamed on Osama.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And everyone should go find that. Bill Cooper predicts 9/11. You should go fucking find that video and
Isn't
listen
he
to it.
dead?
Very-
Didn't he
He's
get killed
very
by the
dead.
Clintons or
Yes.
something?
No,
He was-
it wasn't the Clintons necessarily, but
He was right in the crosshairs of all these fucking people. He was the first one like this who was being called anti-Semite and all of these things by the ADL and all this fucking crap. He published the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion in his book. So that was sitting on the shelves in Barnes and Noble. Like it might still be to this day.
It is.
Nobody's
It is still there.
fucking
It's
smart
that
got
particular book.
protocols
I
in
don't
it.
know. The are you talking about Behold the Pale Horse?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's still
Yes,
there.
yes.
It's $25 at any like retail bookstore.
So the Project for a New American Century with all these J's in it, 25 people who signed the founding statements of the principles, 10 went on to serve the administration of George W. Bush. So this all happened just before 9/11. Bam, 9/11 happens, and it is the fucking Zionists' wet dream. We get to go and put boots on the ground in the Middle East all over the place for fucking ever. Get to pass all of these fucking these bullshit laws that are like just spying on us all the time in the Patriot Act, all this crap. This is what they fucking loved. And I think that's the New World Order. Like that's like the what they call full spectrum dominance. And I want to read this quick Wikipedia thing.
Okay. I got a question for you. So
Yeah.
as soon as you're done, I'll ask you the question.
Full spectrum dominance, also known as full spectrum superiority, is a military entity's achievement of control over all dimensions of the battle space, effectively possessing an overwhelming diversity of resources in such air as terrestrial, aerial, maritime, subterranean, extraterrestrial, psychological, or cyber technological. So
Extraterrestrial.
it's mostly taken as military,
as
but
cool
I think
as
the
it
important
sounds.
thing is the psychological operations. And while they're doing all this weird military stuff all over the world to just like secure this weird globalist empire, they're dumbing down America, and they're trying to make us all just easier to control, take away all our rights. It can all be seen in particularly in those events surrounding 9/11.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. What are like the really, because I know there are a few, and I don't know them off the top of my head. I know kind of like I can generally talk my way through them, but I'm sure you have them. What are like the really fishy things that happened on the days leading up to September 11th, and the days after, and the day of, obviously, that apply to
Jays?
Yeah. What
So,
can you talk a little bit about that?
I can. I believe his name was Larry Silverstein, who I think he owned the towers. Silverstein, as you might imagine. Now, that guy took out an insurance claim just before 9/11. And it was one of the biggest paying things in fucking history. The thing is that that fucking those buildings were basically fucking condemned. The towers were just full of fucking asbestos, and it would have taken so much goddamn money to overhaul. So my thinking is, instead of doing that, he fucking takes out this insurance claim, and he's in the know. This whole thing gets destroyed. He cashes out for fucking billions, while all these people, these regular guys, the firemen, people who are fucking real heroes, going through this rubble, and they're getting cancer because of all this asbestos and this crap. So there was Larry Silverstein. He's all over this thing. And then one of the weirdest things was on 9/11, the day it was happening, there was a call placed to the NYPD about some Middle Eastern men who were on a rooftop with camera equipment. There were 5 of them, and they were filming as the plane hit. And it seems, I think she saw it after the first one hit, but it was assumed that they were there already, like waiting for it to hit, and they were celebrating. They were filming the whole thing, taking pictures with one another. Well, these guys, eventually they left, and they were, I think they were driving down the Jersey Turnpike, something like that, and they get picked up by state troopers. They get taken in. It turns out that these guys were Israeli citizens who were here as film students. But the thing is, they had Mossad connections. So how did these fucking kids know to have all their shit ready to go right as the planes were about to hit, and then be celebrating it after the fact? And then they got Mossad connections. There's handprints all over this. And then you think of like who benefits from all of this shit? If anybody fucking benefited, it's goddamn Israel.
So explain to everybody what the connection, like who is Mossad? What's his connection? Can you kind of go into that just a little bit? I don't expect you to do like the whole, his whole history and all that shit. But
wait,
like,
what did you want to say that again? Mossad and what?
Mossad, his connections to what we're talking about. Because throwing the name
Mossad
Mossad out there
is the Israeli intelligence agency. That's like their CIA.
Oh, okay. I was kind of wondering about that. I wonder what is it an acronym? Is it an
No,
acronym for
no,
something?
no, I don't think so.
I
That's
thought
what
you
they
were
call.
talking about the fella from not Saudi Arabia. What the hell was that? Syria.
Assad. No, Assad.
Some
That's
Assad.
like
yeah.
that's why I was confused. So Mossad. Okay, so that's the CIA. All right, I got you.
Assad went and paid respect to the Holodomor, which is another genocide that nobody talks about. Where
Let's
fucking
talk about it then, because somebody mentioned it in the chat. I believe it was it. It wasn't Dirk. It was somebody brought it up. Oh, Buzz
What
Buzzby.
is it? What
James
is it?
caused the Holodomor.
Holodomor. It was
What is that? I never heard of that.
hold on, let me Wikipedia real quick. It was a man-made famine in Soviet Ukraine in 1932 and 1933 that killed millions of Ukrainians. And it was basically to squash any nationalist resistance that was going on there.
The Ukraine, they got great whores there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, bro.
I hear good things about their gas companies and the people sitting on the board.
Wait,
I don't know.
what?
I don't know what you mean. The board.
No, so I'll briefly
Jace.
get into it. No, it's not. Well, maybe a little bit. You know, you've got Nancy Pelosi's kid, Hunter Biden's kid, Mitt Romney's kid,
Not
John
Jace.
Kerry's stepkid. They're all on the Ukrainian gas
Probably
boards,
Oh, okay.
and that's
I
why
see.
all this Ukraine business with the impeachment happened, because
With
all
with
the-
crackhead Biden and all that.
yeah. And you know what? That's something else that I do want to just real quick touch on. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it does have to do with something similar to crackhead Biden. As we all know, he took a direct commission into the Navy while Joe Biden was the VP and all that. And he got into the Navy and was immediately discharged. Literally, he like pissed hot the next day for cocaine use. And so he was decommissioned or whatever. I don't think they get dishonorably discharged. They get decommissioned dishonorably or whatever. But he was thrown out. This Buttigieg guy, right? Mayor, the gayer, right? The gay mayor, the gayer. He who's running and is actually leading the Democrat Party right now, right alongside Bernie. Like he and Bernie are neck and neck. So it's like the super young versus the ancient, and they're like the
Yeah,
leaders
that old
of
fuck.
they're the leaders of the Democrat Party right now. And every time, and it's so funny because Bernie will win, like he'll have more votes than Buttigieg, and he ends up having to redistribute, like he ends up having to share the delegates with with the gayer. And so the thing with Mayor Pete Buttigieg, he was a direct commission as well, which means just straight commission. He was the mayor, as I recall, when he received his direct commission and all this, into the Navy Reserves, and he had a real cushy 1 week in a month job, and then he asked to deploy to go to Afghanistan. He was there for a couple months, and then he came home. And while he was over there, he was in a real cushy desk job, real easy gig. And he went there, did a couple months, came back, took pictures while he was there, came back, and he said, I am this big war hero, rah. But like nobody looks at his, and he'll sit up there, if you watch the debates, he'll sit up there and he'll lord his military service over everyone else. He'll say, well, I'm the only veteran on the stage, and blah, 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 blah. But then like you look at his military record, and it's something that you would never in a million years brag about. Like if you had that military record, there's no way in a million years you'd be like, I was in the military. You would probably keep that a secret because it's an embarrassing, like almost non-existent. It would have been better had he not served, because
it's like right up there with smoking crack, basically.
Yeah, so that's why like I wanted to bring it up, because people talking about Mayor Buttigieg and
Butt plug.
Yeah, Mayor Butt Plug, the gayer butt plug.
It's weird how he stole that thing with the weird shadow app that he like.
Oh, and that too. Yeah, what happened
funded.
there? Let's talk about him real quick. If anybody out there is trying to vote for Mayor Buttigieg, I would rather you vote for him than Bernie, because I want to see them stick to Bernie again. Not like he's going to get the nomination anyways, because he's not a Democrat, and there's no way they would give it to an independent who's posing as a Democrat, even though he votes almost always with the Democrats, as far as party lines go. But they'll never give it to him, because that would be taking away from one of their donors in their party. And what if you are out there trying to vote for the gayer, I would recommend looking into some of his history and looking at current events, not even just his history, because current events, he actually made this huge donation to the and as far as I know, his campaign manager is now in charge of the. I'm getting ahead of myself. He made this huge donation to the Shadow Inc. company that handled the Democrat primaries in Iowa, which was a total debacle. If you watched the news or read up on the news or whatever, total mess, because he paid them off to somehow make it so that he would win.
Do you know who's behind that app?
Yeah, it's George Soros, I believe. He paid the predominantly like the most out of it.
Possibly. The guy who gets the most credit for being behind the Shadow app is the Jewish billionaire Seth Klarman. He's also the chairman of the board for the Times of Israel.
Another Jew, huh?
Yes! So see, it all tied together. And then, but now the Mayor Pete's former campaign manager is now in charge of in charge of the voter integrity in Nevada. So like, it's all this stuff that like, if you just have half a brain cell left rattling around in your head, you should be able to kind of be like at least a little suspicious about this sort of stuff. But you can tell the people who are so brainwashed by politics in general, by these politicians or whatever, and that are like sold that these politicians are rock stars and not servants, because that's exactly what they are. You can tell who's brainwashed by them because they don't bother to look into some of this super fishy stuff. Now, am I saying that Donald Trump is perfect? Absolutely not. Under no circumstances would I say that. But what I'm saying is, like, if he is doing stuff, he's very good at hiding it because he's been able to get this far without actually having any kind of evidence brought up against him. Now, on the other hand, you have all these other guys who are campaigning on the Democrats or for the under the Democrat primaries, and like everything they do is right there in front of you, and all you have to do is just kind of look in that direction and you'll see it. Whereas like it used to be back in the day, you had to go like hunting this stuff down. Now it's all right here for you to look up. You can look at their contributions. You can look at the campaign records for where the finances go. All you have to do is follow the money, and you can see who is, and this is, I think, Yakov, kind of like your lane, where the money is coming from and going to. And a lot of it, you will see it's tied into these
Jews.
Jays. So yes. But yeah, that's the big thing that's going on right now, and I highly recommend anybody who is voting in I mean, Donald Trump is going to sweep the Republican ticket. I mean, it's not even a competition at this point. He got double the amount of votes that any incumbent has ever gotten. Like the highest was like as far as Obama and George W. Bush and HW and Reagan. He doubled the highest, which I believe was Obama last the previous election or whatever, when he was the incumbent. He doubled the amount of voters who turned out for him. Like I think Obama had like 60,000 people turn out for him and vote for him, and then Trump got like 120 something, or it's way higher than that now. Last I checked, when it was like 64% reporting in, like he was at 114. So like 114,000. So he's going to sweep the Republican nomination, no doubt in my mind. The only other people up against him were like Joe Walsh, who's already dropped out, and fucking Billy Weld, or the Weld fella. And neither one of them is pulling anything, even like 5%. I think Weld got 3% in New Hampshire, and that's like his stomping grounds. So, like, if you're voting Trump, don't even worry about it, because you know he's going to win the Republican primary. But as far as Democrats go, I'm not discouraging anyone who is a Democrat voter to go out and vote for their Democrat of choice. I would never discourage you from exercising your right. But I will say, please look at the information that's right there for you, and just know who you're voting for. I mean, most of the people,
minorities know exactly what they're doing. Bro.
Well, yeah, well, you would be surprised now. Is a lot of them are. I think Trump now is sitting at like 30% of the black vote. And yeah, and actually 25% of the people who are attending Trump rallies are registered Democrats. So like, I think you're going to see a huge shift in who's voting for, and especially in the exit polls, and ultimately when the results do come out, I think people are going to be very surprised. Unless there's some, I mean, obviously there's going to be some some cheating going on in this upcoming election. We're all anticipating it. We all expect it. And that's the only way that the Democrats are probably going to win at this point. But,
Right.
and I will say to the Republican voters out there, remember that more people turned out for Democrats in this primary election than turned out for Trump. So if it were just a Democrat-Republican thing, the Democrats have us beat in New Hampshire, hands down, because more people turned out for them to vote for whoever their fucking choice was, and most of them chose Buttigieg and Bernie. So don't get complacent and go out and vote, because it's going to come down to it's going to be pretty crazy. If we thought last time was crazy, it's going to be pretty crazy this time. Go ahead.
They were calling it a landslide when Trump won.
Well,
But like it was not really a
not,
landslide.
no.
It was just the best he could have possibly done.
So
As
look
our
at it this
demographic
way.
shift, it will only get more difficult.
Look at it this way. When they said he was, days before the election, he was at 2% probability of winning, and Hillary was
But
at 98.
all of
right?
that was lies, though.
Right. But when it comes out and he totally, I mean, he was he ended up getting 290 something, and then Hillary got significantly less than what was anticipated. That to me is not necessarily a landslide, but based on the predictions and what everybody thought he was going to do, I would be very cocky about that result as well, and I would call it a landslide too. I'd say I went from 2% to 100%. Like,
Yeah, but that's not what
overnight.
happened, though.
Please,
Like
enlighten
it was
us.
very, very split, and like that's the thing. The demographics are going to absolutely fucking kill us, because no matter how many black votes Trump can get, the Democrats are going to get a lot more. And it's not just blacks, it's women, it's Mexicans, it's everyone that we're letting in. They're all just going to vote, and the energy's not there for Trump anymore either. And I
don't
think
think
Trump
so?
will win this. I don't think the energy's there at all. Like my people, I feel like my people were behind like the memes the whole time, and
Right.
there were like boomers grabbing onto those things and running with them. Like that's not going to happen this
Well,
time.
define my people. What does that mean?
The shit posters, the cyber
like-
vermin, the internet terrorists. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Remember when I was telling you, I guess around that same time, I was sending you the stuff that I was making. Remember I was making shit on Photoshop and posting it all the time, and then I was putting it on the Donald. I'm always talking about the shit I put on the Donald, and like that's the sort of stuff that we were doing back then. We were constant. I mean, even we were going. I had Twitter accounts that were just like specifically for. I was an unsolicited Trump campaign promoter. Like I was just out there
Right.
sharing the shit, trying to get. Just and doing the hashtags and all that bullshit just to try to get the information out there. I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying, because I'm not there yet, but am I going to get there? Maybe. Am I going to get involved? Maybe. I don't know. But I think the energy now is, when you say that the energy is no longer there, I don't think it's needed to be there now. In as much as like the stuff that we did when we were out on the trail and we were helping, I don't think we need that anymore, because you look at the rallies, what they were back then and what they are now. You look at the numbers of the people who are turning out to vote. You look at the people who are, you look at the actual poll numbers. And I mean, he's sitting at 95% in the Republican Party, which is pretty good. It's what you expect from somebody who is like anti the establishment, the neocons that we typically associate with neocon, the George W. Bush, the McCain, the Lindsey Graham, like those guys who are like very vocally neocon. You're going to lose that 5% of the vote. You're going to lose a lot of the evangelicals who just can't get past. I have a lot of friends who are very anti-Trump, and that's I don't hold that against them, because they don't like Donald Trump, and they think that and they typically are like the type of people who are I want conservatism, and I get it. Donald Trump is not necessarily conservative fiscally, nor is he necessarily super conservative social policies, but he tends to err on that side more so than he does on the other side. I mean, this last budget bill that came out was he cut $4 trillion out of the budget that otherwise would have gotten it. So maybe now he's starting to get, maybe it's because it's campaign season, hey, I gotta actually act conservative, that sort of shit. But at least like some of the stuff that he's doing, he's putting the money where I want it. And even if no one's going to be conservative anymore, it seems like that's the way that we're going. And no one has the backbone to stand up to Congress and fight them, because they know it's going to result in a government shutdown, it's going to fall on the president and all that. But I mean, I get it. But at the same time, like, at least he's putting the money where I want it.
I think when the Republicans no longer have a Trump, there's not going to be anybody. And Trump only made it because of his like populist nationalist stance. And like, yeah, and he did some nationalist stuff, all right, but for fucking Israel every fucking time and nothing for us.
So
no
do you think
wall,
that's
no
gonna
end to
hurt him?
birthright citizenship.
Well, no, the wall is being built right now. The
it's not.
come on, yes it is. Yes it is.
Come
Mhm.
on.
You
Come
can.
on.
It definitely is.
You want you.
It's not.
So what do we want to bet, Yakov? No, this
I
is
can drive down there. I live.
There's
I
some
live
private portions of wall, but it's not. It hasn't been passed to be funded by the government. That's what has to happen. We need
Well,
like
it's
$7 billion.
Well, yeah, because it's been coming in little pieces. I mean, they
No,
can't.
he should have done it
which
when
is
he shut it down,
unfortunate.
shut down the government in the fucking first place.
Should have.
That's when he should have done it.
What I want to
No,
ask
he's not
you.
gonna do it.
Let's not talk about the wall because it's being built, and there's no disputing that, Yakov. The no.
You was making sure it never happened. He's fucking this wall in Israel. The
That's
toys
not the
don't get
reality.
small.
That's my reality, which makes it real. What I do want to ask you is, and here's a serious question: do you feel I can assume that there were quite a few white nationalists behind Donald Trump? We can recognize that because that was a big thing, and we know David Duke was big into Donald Trump for a while until all of a sudden he supported Israel and all that stuff. But let's talk about like the white nationalist movement, and I'm not talking about like guys like me who are white, who are also a nationalist, who believe in their country.
Closer.
Let's not merge the two and make me into a white nationalist.
I have some
red
questions
sleeve
too.
wearing.
When you get a chance, I have some questions too.
Sure,
actually,
sure. But I'm talking about like the guys who were like, I hate every color other than white, and if your blood isn't pure, then you need to get out of here. And
Nobody's exactly.
but that's who I'm talking about, like those people that you associate that with. Now, those people were obviously behind Donald Trump because of the rhetoric of like the no Muslims and then the no Mexicans and we need to kick these people out and those people out and everyone
Illegal.
calling them racist. But I'm just talking about the stuff that was said on the news, and this is the image that was painted of him, whether or not that was accurate or not.
By
Now,
the Lugan press.
Now, yeah, exactly. So that was the image that was painted of him, and the people who were of that mindset, who weren't necessarily aware of what was the Donald Trump, the actual man, we understand that they supported Donald Trump in the beginning, right? And then some people who are obviously, I'm not saying anti-Semitic or whatever, or who are very anti-Zion, will say those guys who don't necessarily want to contribute to the Israeli military
war.
complex, and getting involved in that sort of mess and siding with Israel over like the Palestinian this, that, and the other, and all their problems.
If any of this made any difference to me at all as a white American? None.
Right. So those people, like your people, say you people, Yakov, does this affect your being behind Donald Trump in the upcoming election? Will it hurt him to lose the not necessarily white nationalist vote, but like the broader spectrum of those types of people?
The internet terrorist.
When I say that, I'm just talking about funny pictures on the internet.
Right.
I'll tell you what I totally lose hope with Trump over is the fact that they're coming into people's houses in my state, taking away their fucking property over wrongthink. And then Trump goes on fucking TV. He's like, I will protect the Second Amendment. Dude, like, no, you ain't. You ain't doing shit. I'm fucked. I want to run away from the fucking country, and I'm paranoid all the time. Dude, it's bad.
So is that a state level issue that he really has no control over, would you say? Or
I feel like he could intervene in any of this stuff. He doesn't intervene in anything. He never intervenes, and the shit's being everything's being taken away. The fucking Virginia fucking lost. Everything's being taken away. He's not intervening in shit and doesn't care about anything good for us. Pisses me off.
Damn.
And then here's my when he's talking on fucking TV and he's talking about like the stock market, how high that is.
Right.
People who are using the stock market to judge the health of your economy, what you don't realize is that you're just looking at the gap between the rich and the poor. What you're seeing is people getting more and more angry about the economy.
Jesus.
It's infuriating to me listening to him talk anymore, to be honest. And then here's the other thing. He'll talk about, like, we're not dependent on foreign oil anymore. We defeated ISIS. Why the fuck are we in the Middle East? Oh, yeah. Fucking Israel.
Jesus. Well, no, it's not just that. I mean, let's be realistic, dude. Like,
we're also protecting the opium fields.
You can, like, spout off all your anger about whatever, but You know, there realistically there are these things that we need called resources, and a lot of countries over there in that side of the
We're
world.
not dependent on the foreign. That's what Trump's saying. We're not dependent on. We produce more oil than anybody now. We're not.
I'm not
dependent
talking about oil.
No,
I never
we
said
need their
anything about oil.
sand.
You know, actually,
need?
what we need is this stuff called lithium. It powers your phone. It powers your computers, and a lot of that is in that area.
I would like to look up
I don't
exactly
know
where
if
in
you,
the world.
I don't know if you
shit,
know this.
'cause-
Afghanistan, actually, mostly. A lot of the mines are in Afghanistan.
Sure. I mean, the resources are definitely an added benefit, but I'm pretty sure we're there because.
I mean, if you have an
people who
iPhone, then
legislate this
you're a
shit are
capitalist.
Israelis.
If you own an iPhone, you're a capitalist. That's all there is to it.
So,
Yeah.
so would you say? I don't like to ask this of people, but would you still vote for Donald Trump, or would you be willing to? I'm not asking if you are going to. Would you still vote for Donald Trump, or would you go and not vote just to make a statement, or would you go further and vote for the more
The accelerationist angle. Huh?
yeah, like what is your
That is
angle? And
possible.
I'm using you as like the pulse of the of
I am
the,
not a good
the
pulse for the
movement.
fucking
No.
the alt right, the white man. I'm not a good pulse for that.
Would
They'll
you
fucking
consider
tell you that.
yourself alt right? Would you use that term
No,
about yourself?
I really dislike labels. I really dislike calling myself anything. I think white nationalist is fair because I'm definitely white. I like my white people. I like living around white people. I like my nation the way it is traditionally. Like all of these things, I prioritize my nation and my people and all these things. It sounds like a white nationalist,
See,
but it doesn't sound like
I
a bad thing in any way.
Now that's newspeak, right?
Yeah, to me, I just think white
That's-
supremacist.
That's
all I
so
think.
when you hear white nationalist, that's newspeak because white nationalist in its prior to this whole everyone's a racist, you could have been like, no, I'm white and I love my country and I love the traditional values that we were founded on, and I wish we could get back to that republic state that we were in,
I think
where
they
it was
twisted.
you
They
know
twisted nationalism.
and that's
after
what
World
they
War
did.
II.
They changed it and they said, well, no, white nationalist means you're a Nazi. And then they in fact push the argument. They're like, well, that's what the Nazis were. Well, no, that was the National Socialist Workers Party, right? So that's what Nazi stands for. And
I have a question.
yeah, go ahead, V.
Would you date a black girl?
I have, and I don't
Oh.
recommend it, and I will never do it again.
Why not?
Not ideal. It doesn't, like, I don't know. It don't feel right. They don't
Like in
smell
what
right.
way? What way do you have? This is the type of question that we do here on this show.
It felt weird meeting the parents and all that shit. It just didn't feel
Oh.
right. It didn't
Did
feel
you
like you belonged, and I think that's natural.
So you felt a little like maybe, do you feel like maybe you were being, see, I'm being like the, so for some reason I'm being the voice of reason today. Like I'm asking the serious questions and V's like, did you ever fuck a black girl? Which is normally like my job, but thank you, V, for being that my yin to my yang.
Of course.
So did you feel like maybe it was a product of what some would call reverse racism, which they say doesn't exist? Or do you feel like it was more like racism, which they say doesn't apply because you can't be racist against white people? Do you feel like maybe you were the victim of a form of racism?
I think all of these labels are faking gay, and basically black people like being around black people, white people like being around white people.
Yeah,
there's
that's like
nothing wrong.
That's
with
a
Well,
thing.
what about me? Like, here's the thing. Like,
Let's
I
hear
have a caveat to that. I identify as American. Like, I don't say I'm white or my descent is Mexican, but my parents, they were like hippies, man. They like were rock and rollers. So they like were in a band, and like I never taught me Spanish or anything. So I don't speak Spanish, even though I'm descendant of like Mexicans. And like I can't identify with white people because I'm technically not white. I'm like basically brown. But like there's no color or anything that I can say. Even my skin color is pretty much white, but I'm technically Mexican. Technically.
For me, it's
let
like
me
largely
finish it.
about assimilation, you know, like people
Well,
who can
here's
just
what
coexist in society
Here's
with
what I'm
you.
getting at is like I think like I understand what you're saying about like you think that people want to be with the color of their people, but I disagree. Like I don't think that's true. Like I like all types of people. I've been with some black girls, I've been with some white girls, I've been with Mexicans, I'm pretty fond of Asian girls, but all in all, they're all the same to me. They all have a vagina, you know.
But yeah, if we're looking at this
Well, no,
as shallow
hold
as
on.
fucking
Hey,
possible.
hold on. I have to be the since you're being the funny guy, I got to be the serious guy. According to the LGBTQTIIA, you can be you can have a penis and still be a girl. You don't necessarily have to have a vagina to be a girl. V, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm talking about the hole that is down there.
So
So
what you mean is the front hole or the back hole. You can't call it the lower back hole. Um,
not the doo-doo
for
puss,
well,
the
that's what they
actual,
call it. That's a
the
thing now.
actual.
You have to say the lower front hole or the lower back hole. You can't say vagina because a man can have a vagina. This is a thing. Now,
Ridiculous.
I'm here as an advocate of the LGBTQRSTLNE,
I
and
can't
I
get on.
have to.
Can't get on that page at all. I can't. I don't think I'll ever. It's like all those things that people talk about. They go, "Oh, you got to be this way and you got to be that way now, and now you have to say this thing." It's like we were talking about earlier, where you have to say whatever, and you have to refer to people as like them instead of he or she. I can't do that. I don't think I'll ever. I'll be like that old grandpa that's still racist and like says racist things, and my grandkids will be like, "What's wrong with him? Can you believe what he just said?" And I'll be like, "No, because I just talk how I talk, like that's never gonna change, like
Flame upon herb in the chat said it's called a sheenus.
that's
My
pretty
man.
good. Oh, shitness. But my point is this is like I can't like as somebody who like and I think there's a superiority in each ethnicity or race or whatever you want to call it. I think there's something that each race,
Sure.
just like in dogs, there's something that we've all been bred to be good at,
Sure.
whatever, right? But I think that and I'm not preaching unity here as racist and like homophobic or whatever you xenophobic or whatever you want to call me. I think that here's my theory, is that if we combine all these things from the races and like create a super person, it's just like dogs, man. Eugenics. That's my theory. Is like if we really embraced
We create
eugenics
mutts.
and stop letting people breed all willy-nilly, like we could like breed humans to be better biologically. And the problem is that we have Busby actually made a good point in the chat just now. He said exact equality is a false ideal, and I totally agree with that because there's no such thing as equality. I'm a firm believer that human beings don't want equality; they want superiority. And like to me, that's the most truth that I've seen in my experience is that there's no anybody going, oh, we like whatever race, like African American, black, whatever, going, we want to be equal. No, same with like women right now. This whole feminist thing is they're not trying to be equal; they're trying to be superior. And like it's so funny that they hide under the guise of we're trying to be equal because I don't think that's it. I think deep down nobody wants to admit that they're trying to be superior. And like that's my standpoint on everything is like I prefer to be superior. I like to lord over people and I like to like act like I'm better than them. And even if I'm not, I still like to be better than them. In fact, it's funny because we always talk about comedy theory, and one of the main theories behind comedy is that we laugh at things because we think that person is stupid and we're better than them. Like
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, think about how many things that you've seen and how many times you've watched something and went, "That's so stupid. That guy, what an idiot." And it's true because you're yourself going, yeah, I'm better than that person.
What could be
So
more
that's
of a superiority complex than claiming that you are chosen by God and that you have this land because God said so forever? Why does Israel get an ethno state but Europeans can't have one? And we're told that we're terrible people if we want one.
So here's
They literally
let me
fucking
let me
DNA test me.
told you that.
let me do the religious aspect of it, and then or my opinion based on the religious aspect of it, and then we actually got to close out because we're coming up on the 2 hour mark. So the whole thing with God's chosen people and all that is based on their book, the Torah, and the basically what we understand to be the Old Testament, and then the Torah itself is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, and a lot of their history is all the Old Testament. So for them, they are God's chosen people, and I believe that to be true as well. I believe that the Jews.
Well,
the
you
Old
believe there's a
Testament,
new covenant also, right?
correct. So
And
I
none of
would,
this circumcision crap is necessary anymore,
no,
according to the
it's not.
Bible.
No, not anymore. But my opinion on that is the Jews are God's chosen people. They are God's favored children, and they have been since the dawn of time. And for me, well, not since the dawn of time, since Abraham. But for me, we are Christ's bride. So we're kind of like I don't want to say the redheaded stepchildren, but we are more associated with Christ than we are with God. But Christ and God are one and the same as part of the Holy Trinity. And so I think of the Jews, I think personally, I don't have a problem with the Jews because they're like my older brother. Okay. And this is, again, this is just my opinion. And I'm not saying that any of the things that you said are untrue. I'm saying that the Jews as a people are like my older brother, and I kind of have to like love them for that reason, but I don't necessarily need to love the things that they do.
Well, that's the thing. Romans 14 says that all authority is set up by God, and I can accept that, but that doesn't mean that everything authority does is right, and I'm going to fight
Right.
against it when it's
Right.
disgusting.
No, that's what I'm trying to say.
That's Israel.
that's what I'm saying here. I have to love them, but I don't have to love the things that they do, and I don't necessarily have to agree with
go to their
with
country.
all that.
I would love to date a Jew girl from the Bronx, to be honest.
You're
It's
so
funny.
on that.
It's funny we talk about all this stuff and like there's all this like conspiracy and like I'm against whatever, but then like I'm a degenerate, like at my core I'm a degenerate, and like I always go to the things that benefit me the most because the most important person in the world is me, and so I go, well, why would I fight against this when I could just join it? You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean like become Jewish or anything, but I mean embrace it in a sense where, I don't have to worry about the Jews being in my way.
Paranormal stories in the chat. Paranormal stories in the chat has corrected me.
David Rockefeller.
The Jews are not God's chosen people. The Hebrews are. So
he's talking about white people.
I
That guy's he's an identitarian. He's been saying we're the Jews.
So again, there's a lot of murky water there, but what I'm referring to is the descendants of the Jews, even though they're not practitioners of the, at a certain point, if they're not practitioners of the Jewish faith, then they mean no more to me than their lives are no more intrinsically valuable than like anyone else's. I'm like,
they killed
okay,
Jesus.
I love people, but obviously the Jewish people, and I'm not necessarily saying like people who are descended from from the tribes of Judah, or the tribes of Israel, I should say, because the tribes of Judah is its own tribe. I'm not necessarily saying everybody who is descended from there, because that's Chuck Schumer, but I don't think Chuck Schumer is a practicing Jew. Bernie Sanders is a descendant of the
man,
tribes.
it's all about blood.
So those people think that I'm God's chosen people. Well, you're also the people who frustrated the ever-living shit out of God to the point where he nearly destroyed your people multiple times and throughout the course of the Old Testament. So if you are of the mindset that like, hey, I'm God's chosen people, but I can worship false idols and I can do this, that, and the other, and I can say bleh, and shoo to God and his rules that he's imposed upon me, then you are not God's chosen people. At this point, you are God's forsaken children who have gone off into the wilderness, and he could not necessarily care less about you because he still loves all the people, but the people that are not necessarily part of God's chosen people. The people who are God's chosen people are the ones who are practicing Jews of the descendants of the tribes. Now,
the Talmud says that Jesus is in a boiling pot of excrement.
And that's fine. That's fine. They can say all the mean shit that they want to say about Jesus because I don't necessarily care what they have to say. I don't have to like what they're saying or doing. But at the same time, they're like my older brother. So that's my opinion on the matter. Again, I'm not going to sit here and bash Jews for the sake of bashing Jews. But what I will do is I will absolutely call them out for their misdeeds and the shit that they're doing that they're not supposed to be doing. Same as I would anybody else. And at the same time, like if you look into Revelation, only 144,000 Jews actually make it into heaven. So that's just my opinion on the religious piece of it. But if you are part of that disproportionate Jewish population in Hollywood or in politics who use it for their own advantage but are not practicing Jews, I don't want nothing to do with you because whatever. And obviously with Judaism, there are a lot of different sects, just like there are with Protestant Christians. Or even Catholics. They have several different types of Catholics. We have all these different denominations who believe different things. So this Talmud and all these additional books that have come after the Orthodox Judaism, then it starts to muddy up the waters a little bit. But that's
are we almost gonna?
The difference is in blood.
Are we almost gonna wrap this up here?
If you're not part of the tribe of Judah, you mean nothing to me.
I gotta take a Trotsky. Are we gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap, we're gonna wrap this, we're gonna
Yeah.
wrap this up?
Let's wrap it up. Yakov, what do you need to say about the Jews before we?
I gotta say, Google USS Liberty, Google Levant Affair, Google the Samson option, Google 5 Dancing Israelis. Check out my show Skinwalker Tapes. You can find my channel. It's Yakov Alive. The channel that we stream from is Skinwalker Tapes Archive. Teespring.com/stores/Yakov-Alive. That's where you can find all my sweet t-shirts. Buy those fucking things. Yeah, and basically Jeffrey Epstein had a replica of Solomon's temple that he sacrificed white children on
Jesus.
his island.
V,
what
do you have to say? What do you have to say? I'm like, I don't want to do a thing where like I add to, because I think that was like the perfect cutaway, and I'm gonna send it to V. V, it's your chance to say what you got to say for the end of the episode.
I think after hearing everything today and like the conspiracy and whatnot, I think that my stance on Jews has changed a little bit. I think that I would really like to date a Jew woman, especially one from the Bronx with that accent. There's something really attractive. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, fuck me.
Pamela Aldoon.
Ryan,
yeah.
go down and get us another one of those loaves of kosher bread.
You know, there's something really attractive to me about a woman that has an attitude like that, and like Jew girls seem to have that real like bossy attitude. It's really attractive to me. I find it super attractive. So I don't know. Maybe that's the next tally on the belt. There is a Jew girl.
I don't have the sound anymore, but there you go.
Other than that, I really enjoyed the show, and thanks everyone for listening and watching. And you know,
if someone had to destroy this fucking channel, I'm glad it was me.
I am too. Honestly, I'll end the show with thank you guys for joining us. I know it was probably a super offensive episode to many of you, and you know, we like to sit on the cutting edge of what we're allowed to, what we can get away with, and we like to be like edgy, like a 1990s goth kid, you know, and like sit on the roof. We like to sit on the roof and cut ourselves listening to Alkaline Trio. That's the kind of edgy that we like to be on this show, and I hope that this didn't push you away, but at the same time I hope it kind of enlightened you to a little bit of what's going on, while at the same time not convincing yourself that we are total anti-Semitic douchebags. Tell your friends about us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you all there, Skinwalker gang.